I don't know how things will go, so I'm not, never say never. But you're definitely the first guest who gonna postpone an episode because of a spider bite. I think it's amazing. I just wonder, like, do you have any special powers or like a spidey sense now that you've interacted with this Black Widow?
You would think, I mean, if you grow up in Colorado, which I mostly did, it's like the Black Widow's the ultimate boogeyman. They tell you not to go out by the shed or the wood pile because there's Black Widows, and if you get bit, you're going to die. So I got bit about 10 days ago, 12 days ago. I was camping. I felt some wriggling around down by my legs, and then I got some itchy bites, turned my sleeping bag out, and there was a big fat Black Widow with a big red hourglass on its belly. So I was like, dang. But I went through like 7 days of just kind of severe pain. I went to the ER twice. Kind of felt like I had like mono or COVID or something mixed with this like crazy muscle pain. Uh, I'd say my only spidey sense I've gained is a life experience that is irreplaceable, but it's similar to like going to jail overnight or something like that. It was not fun.
And is this the first time that you've actually been bit by one, even with all the time spent in Colorado?
Yeah, I've probably seen them about 5 times total in my life, and then this is the first time I've gotten bit. The cousin boogeyman, if you live in Colorado, is the rattlesnake. Everyone warns you that you're going to get bit by a rattlesnake, and those I've seen even less, but they are around, and I've not been bit by one of those. And that would probably be a little scarier.
I mean, both of those are up there on my worst nightmares. So I don't envy. I mean, it would be weird to envy being bit by a snake or a spider, but definitely terrifying even just hearing about it.
It was rough.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, like, are you 100% now, or you're on your way to healing, or you're healed?
I'm like pretty much the last day or two, I've been back to 100. It was a solid like week and a half of funky, funky, funky living. So it's cool to be back. Like, and it's just, you know, just appreciative that it wasn't worse. Really, the main thing is I was also camping with my wife and kid, and it was like I was just glad it didn't bite one of them because it was
Yeah,
that would have been rough.
that's good. That I mean, again, not ever good to be bitten by a snake or a spider, but it's good that you can take one for the team and kind of better it happened to you than them for sure. I agree with that.
Totally.
And I'm glad you're back. I'm glad this is one of the first things you did when you're back. So thank you. I was telling you a bit before we pressed record how I was listening to some of your old interviews and kind of almost feel like there's a bit of a parasocial relationship going on there. But I actually think the most parasocial relationship I would have with anything in your realm is with your dog. I see photos and videos of your dog whenever I see your stuff on social media, and I'm just curious to know a bit more about this majestic creature. So can you just tell me a tiny bit about the dog? Like, when did it come into your life? What's its name? How old is it?
The dog's name is Max. He's about 5. Um, yeah, I've always loved huskies. I guess visually at first because I wasn't really around any growing up, but I watched Lost Boys a lot. And then Corey Haim's dog is Manook on Lost Boys, and I just always thought that dog was so cool. And then, um, I've been hesitant to take on kind of big responsibilities. I had my kid when I was over 40. This is the first time I've had a pet of my own as an adult. So uh, I went to LA with my family and we house sat. And the condition of the house sitting was we were going to watch these two huskies uh, of the owner's house. And I was just loving these dudes, like the way they act and they like huskies like go hard and then they chill. They just lie around and they're super sweet and they just have a lot of personality. So we were house sitting these two huskies and I was telling my friend that I loved them and she's someone that rescues a lot of animals and stops animals from being euthanized. She knows a lot of people in LA. And she was like, I have a husky that needs a home. You should come meet him. Um, Her name's Jane Mosely. She's like kind of a known artist and she does modeling and acting and stuff. And she was like, come meet him. And when he walked out, he had his ears like super flat and it was really cute. And my wife was like, guess he's coming with us. So, uh, and then it was kind of a group effort because like 2 weeks later, a buddy drove him from LA to Colorado. His name's Eddie, and he drove him out. And then, yeah, Max has been here with us for in around Christmas time. It'll be a year, and it's like it's one of those things where it changed my our lives so much. Like he brought so much warmth into our family, and like I thought it would be fun having a dog, but I didn't realize it would be so epic. Like if I leave, I almost cry when I leave him. So it's kind of been a transformative experience.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. My girlfriend and I, we have a dog. It's our first pet, and same thing. It's like pretty kind of cliche and corny to say even, but we constantly just kind of look at each other and ask, like, what was it like before we had this dog? Like, it was such a like epic, life changing thing that we didn't really even anticipate in the beginning. Same as you're saying, like we wanted a dog. We saw this one, we kind of fell in love with it, but then we didn't know like how great of an experience it would be in the end. I couldn't ask for a better experience, and I mean it's something I wish more people experience. But it's great to hear that you kind of experience the same thing with a different type of dog. Ours is like a tiny Dachshund, but
Oh, cool.
he thinks he's big.
Right. It is one of those things where you're like, how was I doing this before without this guy? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, get total shift in things. That's usually how it goes on here. But do you remember the first photo you ever took? Maybe not the first like exact photo. I'm sure you took many photos, but do you remember what the first photo was that made you want to take more photos?
Yeah, so I grew up in like kind of a suburban part of a town called Colorado Springs, and I would lie flat in my front yard and stare up, and there'd be these swarms of gnats just like spinning around above my head, and it kind of looked like a thought bubble or something coming off my head. I thought so. That was the first thing I wanted to photograph was these gnats.
Do you remember, like, what did that slowly morph into, or I guess rapidly morph into? Like, what did you take photos of after these cloud formations?
Well, I realized that I just liked shooting things that were kind of poignant or poetic or funny or ridiculous in my life or things that I had access to. And it felt like a way to curate something. And um, so I started shooting. Some of my stuff in the beginning was like kind of depressing, like burning dumpster kind of stuff. Um, and I think that's just being a bit like young and angsty. But uh, I was living in New York, and I would come shoot in Colorado and kind of bring it back to New York, and then kind of show it there. So I had like there was like rumors that people would do like devil worshipping stuff in the hills like near my house, so I'd shoot like, you know, graffiti on rocks and like kind of haphazard little arrangements of like, you know, rocks and stuff, just kind of like pagan looking stuff, and you know, bring that around. And at the same time I'd shoot like there's like a series that I shot that became uh a series of clothing ads for Vice. Vice used to have a clothing store in New York, and so they're actually some of the first photos I shot. It's like a woman like holding open her freezer, and there's like all these freezer bags, like tons of them. Um, there's like a kid doing a wheelie, like just it's just kind of like everyday stuff, but like it's got a little something extra. So that stuff it's still it's kind of still part of it. Like I've changed a little bit, but in terms of like photography, it's really been about what I'm shooting the whole time and less about the technical parts of it.
I have like a whole other line of questioning, so I'll kind of ask this and then circle back to it later. But I'm curious. I couldn't find it in any of the stuff I was watching and reading about you before this. But were you an active photographer in Colorado and then you moved to New York shooting photos, or did you start shooting photos and then go back to Colorado? If that makes sense.
Right. I grew up, I went to junior high, high school, college in Colorado, and then I moved to New York because I met people from the East Coast when I was in college. And uh when I was really always focused on, you know, skateboarding and snowboarding and bikes, these kinds of things. And when I got to New York, I was like, I don't have anything that I'm really good at. Like I'm just like a fellow on the sidewalk kind of thing. And then around that time, this is like kind of heavy, but my dad passed away, and I just picked up my brother gave me a camera, and then I thought, oh, maybe I'll do this. And I just started kind of immersing myself in looking at the world as potential photographs. And maybe it was like a little bit of escapism from dealing with the grief of losing my dad, but I really like honed that into just being a photographer, just shooting. And you know, I think there's a lot to be said for that, the kind of early naive experimental time when you're trying something like that. And yeah, so I was in New York, I was probably about 22, 23 by that time that I started shooting, and I felt like it was like late on it, you know.
Was your brother, was he a photographer or did he just give you a camera, like gift wise?
He started off um, with photography, and then he kind of moved towards like more like painting and sculpture. So he's still an artist, but he knew about photography, and he actually taught me about f-stops and shutter speeds and stuff. So I would just have the basics.
Younger or older?
Younger.
I I mean, I think you're incredible at explaining your work. Like when I catch little bits of you kind of showing a photo and then explaining when and why and what went into the photo, it's such a concise like narrative that really makes me like understand the photo. And I know you've said before like what a fan of storytelling you are, but my question is like, do you like explaining your work or would you rather the work told the story for itself?
I think I like it if the work is sitting there next to me. But if I had to explain it or tell the story of it just as like a blank canvas, then it's really hard for me. But if it's there, it sets off the feelings of being there. And um, kind of the layers. It's the same with, making art. Like I'm not great at starting with just like a white surface. It's better if I have like bits to anchor it. So yeah, I enjoy that. Because it's also like something that it's fun to get better at. It's fun to improve on how you look at your work. And with photography too, it's like this thing where the further you get from it, you'll see other things in it. So if it's 10 years out, you might see something in it. If it's 20 years out, you might see a whole nother set of personal experiences in that image, or motivations or influences or whatever it is. So it kind of stays fluid that way.
Right. My next question would have actually been if that was a learned skill, like, or if just over years of doing this, have you kind of become more comfortable with explaining and learn the like vocabulary and the talking points to explain a photo?
Well, I think with that, like when I went to New York, I was pretty young. I was like in my early 20s, and then I realized slowly that the way for all of that to work is to just be relaxed and be part of the community and be involved. And um you know everyone is thirsty and wants to work, but it's good if you can just let that part be a little bit zen. And that took me a long time to learn, but in turn, uh I found a bunch of peers doing similar things. I admired a lot of other photographers. Maybe I met them down the line. So it became a whole kind of dialogue between myself and other photographers. And then simultaneously, it was at a point when people were, early 2000s, like uploading images for the first time. So blogging was happening, starting, Tumblr was happening, starting. So, uh, everyone had to become kind of experts on their own work and slowly figure out how to talk about it, frame it, juxtapose it with other work. So that all became a fun part of it.
Did you just mentioned before going to school and college in Colorado? Can I ask, was it for art or photography, or are you self-taught in that aspect?
It wasn't for art or photography. It was for, you know, kind of like media studies. Like I took a class about gender, race, and class in the media, and like I was pretty interested in that. And I took some like film theory classes and stuff, but I didn't know about being an artist or a photographer. It wasn't around for me as a kid, really. So yeah, I would say I'm just self-taught. And then I never resisted technical photography, but I've never been as interested in it for my own work. For me, it's like I'm more interested in the feeling than a bunch of. I'm not as interested in controlling the image. I'm just more interested in making it, and if it has that feeling, then that's what I'm going for.
Right, right, right. Now I feel that your photos are like really aligned with New York. Like when I think of a lot of subcultures that I would pay attention to in New York, your name kind of goes with them, and it has for a long time. But I'm wondering about like the shift in kind of New York city photography to the Colorado, like the slow pace, the more like outdoor and like sports photos you take now. Do you think like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, would that not have even really been possible for you to like shift to that type of photo? Um, like, did it happen kind of strategically? I know you've said before that you made the move to Colorado kind of as a COVID thing, but do you think your work could have existed in a place like Colorado 5, 10 years ago, or is it only now that you can make it work?
I think whatever work I put in New York that kind of laid a foundation, um, is what made this part of my life or this lifestyle possible. So when it comes to shooting subcultures, I'm excited about, what you're doing, or like Living Proof, or there's probably some others where they're kind of looking at all these things like skateboarding, graffiti, fashion, art, music, as with like a similar appreciation for all of them, and like seeing the links between them. And um I've, you know maybe I've been looking at those things that way for a while, and I've looked up to other photographers. And I think with the Colorado thing, it's like I did a lot of these things as a kid, as a youth. Like I was always into snowboarding, and I actually kept it going while I was in New York. So for me to come here, I'm kind of looking at those things with the same eye that I would if I were shooting in New York. So it's kind of like a little bit raw. Like I'm interested in the characters and how they do it. And it was just lucky that, there's also like in the last 10 years, it's been the whole like gorp core thing is like popular. So people like fashion people are looking at it. So there was like a few things that kind of simultaneously made the Colorado thing work. I didn't know that it would. So that's been lucky. We almost moved to LA, and then this has been a cool, you know, either detour or permanent detour. I don't know, but it's been nice.
Are you like right now? Do you live in the same city you grew up in, or are you in different parts of Colorado?
So I grew up in Colorado Springs, which is a big-ish city, and now I live in a town called Salida, which is about 6,000 people. And this is more like a mountain town. It's like a little higher elevation. You can see the mountains. There's like a river. It's like, you know, it's kind of funny. I got the wood burning stove, the Husky, the beat up truck, like all that. So it's kind of shifted into this more of a mountain town thing, but that's also what I wanted as a kid, because I wanted to be closer to snowboarding and these kind of like smaller zones.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of play it off as like a not an accident, but just like kind of a haphazard. You ended up in Colorado, but it seems like you actually fit in very perfectly, like with the beat up truck and the Husky and everything. Like it seems like you adapted and like made it work very quickly.
Yeah, it's been lucky, and it's also been kind of like a focused just like family time. Like we have our son is turning 7 tomorrow, Nima, and you know, like my wife and I love New York and the community and the hustle and bustle, but it's been interesting to like turn that stuff down a little bit and just be more with our son, and the dog thing and all that. So it does feel natural. The other thing is I realized if I didn't, if I stayed in the city till I was like 65 and then tried to check out and snowboard or bike or whatever it is that I'm doing now, it would be trickier just in terms of like physically.
That I like. I assume you're always gonna miss parts of it at least, but do is there like any thought of moving back to a place like New York or Los Angeles, or are you kind of like satisfied with small town living at this point?
At this point, I'd say I'm satisfied. The tricky thing is, in some ways, I feel like I'm at a funny age where I'm 48 and I'm thinking like, do I have more city miles I want to put on myself, or am I good? Because I lived in New York 22 years. I went hard, and now I've lived here almost 5 years. I could see us doing like a California chapter of some sort. My wife's talking about doing like a master's degree thing in San Francisco. So it's I'm open to that. But I'm not sure.
Do you ever think like that like, are you worried about your son missing out on the experiences of being in a big city, or do you think that isn't really for kids anyway?
I think I think both are cool. Maybe for for us, we kind of wanted him to have time where he's just kind of doing like goofy childhood. Like I didn't want him to have to feel kind of like relevant the whole time. Like New York has this like coolness thing, and he was already part of it even when he was like a baby, where he knew, you know, people that skated for Supreme and stuff like that. I almost want I'm happy for him to find that stuff, but I almost wanted him to have more of just a goofy like, you know, Legos and stuff kind of childhood. But both are cool because his friends that are growing up in New York are exposed to like so many, you know, cultures and art and things like that. His thing is more like I'd say it's like substitute that stuff for like nature stuff. Like I do get him out into the mountains and stuff like that a lot. So it just depends on how you're feeling for your kid and maybe what your kid's digging. I mean, he seems to like both because we visited New York with him. He likes it. So but yeah, long story short, I guess maybe he can find that stuff later.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Now, you've talked about, the various activities you do, and I like see just through what I see online, you doing a ton of, I mean, indoor, outdoor, but I'm thinking more outdoor stuff. I'm wondering if there's any specific activity that you're doing that you find yields the most photos for you. Like, I kind of I get the sense that you can make images wherever you are. Like, you like turning whatever incident into photos. But is there anything that you do that photos present themselves more than others?
Mhm. I mean, anytime I'm seeing a place with completely fresh eyes, just going somewhere I've never been, I always like that because I'm like, all right, there's like a 48-hour window where this place looks like this to me. And then as it becomes familiar, it changes. So I love just going anywhere new. And then in the last few years, I've been trying to shoot some like actual skateboard photos, like action photos. That's been interesting because, you know, just through knowing some folks, like I kind of have access to good skaters, and that's been cool. I'm inspired by, you know, like Tobin Yellen, like just taking these kind of easy. I mean, he took a lot of photos, but I'm saying like it's not like a trick sequence. It's just like more of a soulful skate photo. Like I'm definitely interested in that. Um, and the way that like a skate mission moves around, you're like with these kids in this, you know, city setting, and you don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of exciting to me. So I've been doing that, and then uh, the last thing I'd say on that is just like watching my son grow up. Like I see things he's doing, and I've been photographing him the whole time and just doing simple portraits and things. And that stays exciting to me because I just see it's just such a finite little thing before he's big.
Yeah, it's incredible to think of, like, when he's even 18, 21, let's say, you're gonna have that entire process documented. And I mean, I assume you obviously back up all your work, so it's like those photos aren't going anywhere. You're gonna have a timestamp like birth until adulthood of this person changing. I think that's very cool. I think I saw, like, people my age, their parents had that type of thing more than they do now, but not exactly the same as like a dedicated photographer, like with an eye for what's happening, capturing like a 20-year growth period. That's gonna be like very cool for him to be able to look at, and also for you and your wife to be able to look through later too. I think that's very important.
Thanks. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I've always looked at like Ari Markopoulos is like how he's probably 20 years older than me, and he raised a family before, and I saw him do that, and it's like he made amazing images of his sons, So it's not like a unique idea, but it's just been really cool for me. And I kind of like have a camera just sitting on the counter all the time. So if something's happening, it's like it's getting photographed.
I mean that like not the point of these photos, but it's also cool to think about. You can never or you can get less bored that way. Like you don't need to be doing anything else except hanging out with your son to take photos of him. Like for me, if I want to go and shoot some photos, I typically have to leave the house and go on some sort of mission just to like feel like I've shot a few photos that day. But being able to do it in the comfort of your home with like your best friend, I assume, and like someone you're most comfortable with, that's very cool too. I'm envious. I'm looking forward to that happening for me at some point if it does.
Oh, it's it's the best. I like that you have that perspective on it because it's really dope.
Yeah, no, I actually I have like friends who have started having kids too, and I always try to impart on them like you should really be taking as many photos possible of this person because like everyone wishes they had more photos of them growing up, so if you're in a position to give that to a kid, why not? But most of my friends aren't like even hobbyist photographers, let alone like ones by trade, so it's kind of harder to impart that type of thing. But it's very cool to be able to talk to someone who's kind of in it. I This is completely random, but how many times a day do you pull over when you're driving to take a photo? I saw in a few of your videos you kind of stopping the car and getting out and taking a photo, and that's I mean, I take all mine out the car window, but same thing, like multiple times a day, I'm stopping for something I didn't think I was gonna see that I'm seeing in the car. So I'm wondering if that happens to you as well.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I would say average 3 times I'm pulling over in a day. Like, but if I'm somewhere, if I'm on like a road trip and trying to do photos, it's way more. But like, in the last week, there was like someone put their funny, like dilapidated cat scratching post out in their front yard to just get rid of it. And the sun was hitting it nice. I shot that. Uh, some funny Halloween stuff. I'll pull it over for that. Like it's just, it's got to be something on that level, but I'm definitely gonna pull over.
So perfect that you'd say Halloween stuff. This is my favorite time of year. Actually, right after Halloween is my favorite time of year when everyone kind of forgets about their decorations and maybe the like snow or the frost comes overnight and everything looks a bit like deflated and kind of like a sad remnants of what Halloween was. That's my favorite time of year to take photos out the car window.
I'm with you. Some of them don't even stay deflated up to Halloween. Some of them are already sad by the time it's Halloween.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, maybe Colorado is similar to us weather-wise, but we typically get our first snowfall on Halloween. It's like kind of a thing here, and all the kids trick-or-treating end up like getting snowed on by the end of the night. So I kind of wait for that first snow every year, and then, I mean, some years I actually take the day off work the next day just to like go around and take photos of all these sad decorations and ornaments. Now, I mean, this is also a drastic shift, but I think your name and your photography is so synonymous with graffiti. And it's really interesting to me to hear you say you've always been a fan, but not really a participant in it. And I have two questions. Like, what about photographing graffiti is it that you love? And also, like, how can you love something or be as passionate about something as you are without ever like dipping your toe in the water and like trying it out yourself. Like I know, I mean, growing up writing and knowing writers, I know like it's only a certain person, but once they figure out what graph is, they're kind of hooked like forever. And I'm wondering how you figured out what it was, but then managed to keep your distance enough to not I mean, I love the time I spent doing it, but just to be a bit facetious, it's like, how did you not throw away 20 years of your life on this like subculture and you just were involved enough to like be a huge part of it without actually having to like spend the time doing it?
Right. I okay, so graffiti is the only maybe it's I don't think I'm capping here. I think graffiti is the only thing that is like that for me. I think anything else that I'm really into, I do the thing. If it's skateboarding, I did it about, like if it's snowboarding, I did. So graffiti is like that. I mean, I've dipped my quarter of my toenail in there. Like I remember being 15 and having a job and I got a marker and I wrote PITA, PITA on like a dumpster behind this restaurant I worked at. And then even that, my heart was racing so much. And I was so scared of getting in trouble. I'm just like, I ain't built for this. I always looked at it as maybe, maybe the outlawness of it is what kind of first caught my eye about it. The first graffiti I saw was like heavy metal graffiti, like Judas Priest, Metallica, like those things like written on the wall, like a ditch wall. And I was really young, so I think it made a big impact. I was 7 or under, so I was like maybe 6. And this is in the 80s. Um, and then from then on, I just thought it seemed kind of radical, I think. And then my real interest in it turned on because when I went to New York, I wanted to know like who actually did it. And then I thought it was like part of like the 5 elements of hip hop or something, which I guess it is. But then when you realize who's actually writing graph, it's not necessarily like hip hop people. It's like a huge mix.
Yeah.
And then it's became this thing where like once I'm following that and know about graffiti and know who's doing what, I'm like 20% deeper into in love and knowing the city that I'm in because a lot of people don't look at it, but I'm like looking at the walls and then knowing about it, like when it happened, who did it, that kind of thing. And that just made me feel more in touch with my surroundings in a way that I was always excited by. Um, and all that is just, you know, just by being around. And then once I met graffiti people and like learned that it's just like a super nuanced, like crazy subculture, I think that part of it was fun too. So it's kind of given me a lot that way. But yeah, I don't do it. I mean, to be honest, I like last year I went in the train tunnel and wrote my son's name here. But I'm not like ever trying to be up or anything. Um, or I'll put up stickers, but I don't have the the gumption to just go do fill-ins or anything. It's just too crazy.
Yeah. Does your interest at all like stem from like at the beginning of our talk you were saying you kind of started with like darker subjects, kind of like pagan stuff in Colorado, and you were saying like maybe satanic scrawlings in like ditches and stuff. Does that kind of sit like in the back of your head when you I know it's obviously quite different, but I mean, most people probably wouldn't even be able to discern that it was different, right? They just think graffiti is graffiti. But do you think you associate like New York street graffiti in some ways with what you started seeing when you were young in Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Okay, so when just knowing that it was illegal, um, to me kind of gave it that edge, probably that the dark stuff did before. And then it was also, excuse me, it was also at a time when like I was learning a lot about it right around 2000, like 99, 2000, 2001. So even when 9/11 happened, the whole take on graffiti was kind of different. People were like, why would you do that when the city is in shambles kind of thing. And then it it continues to change, and then it'll go in and out of fashion. And then if you went to New York during COVID, it was like a graffiti renaissance. There's like so much new stuff, and like the WOMBAT phenomenon is like taking over. It's fun to watch that, and people are doing anti-style and like all these things. And then uh you know now I'm like older, so I I'm a fan of it, but I kind of take it almost lightly now. Like I just love it, and I love watching it. And uh I am mellower. Like I don't have the same fixation with like darkness, but I do. But at the same time, I do. I love going there. My friend told me about this band Cadaver Dog the other day, and I listened to it, and it's like this take on hardcore music where it's recorded in a way where it just sounds so electric, and I love that, and I'll bump that all day. So uh, I'm meandering around, but basically, it stays in that lane where it's not for everyone because it is a little wild, and I like to keep one toe in that lane, I guess.
No, very cool. And like I don't want to sum up what anyone's saying and boil it down to this, but it sounds like you're saying the the kind of inherent like badassness of it is what kept you interested, but it also kept you not participating personally. That's cool. I would love if I had thought that way, but it wasn't possible for me. Like I knew it was wrong, but then that kind of made me want to do it. But now it's funny. I'm more agree with you now. Like as I'm older and I think about kind of the certain aspects of graffiti of the lifestyle make me feel like I'm not really an anxious guy, but when I think about bombing and racking and all that stuff, it definitely I'm like, oh, that is illegal, and now it makes me feel a little weird. So if I
The rack, no way. That one's too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it like when I was younger and I had friends who kind of not like took an issue with it per se, but they knew obviously ratting on things that aren't yours, illegal, stealing spray paint, illegal. I was always kind of like, I don't know how these people are see any wrong in this. And then I grew up a bit and looking at it through a bit of a different lens, I'm like, oh, I fully see why this would be a weird thing to tell your girlfriend's parents that you did.
Totally. They're like, what? You're a graph guy? No, the other thing is, and I thought of this while you were talking, on a more almost like I guess intellectual level, the whole thing, this isn't my concept, but I think it's Ron English. It's like an artist. He was he did an interview where he's talking about how graffiti challenges what is public space. So in the way where if you're driving down the street and you have to look up and just see like a Pringles billboard or like Chester Cheetah, like just something being advertised, you know? Um, like why do we have to look at that?
Yeah.
And then graffiti is kind of like, well, if you're going to look at that, then you're going to look at this too. If you're going to show me like this ridiculous Verizon ad and it's like 60 feet tall, like graffiti is kind of like the counterpoint to that. Um, and then, one other kind of thing I remember about it was like, there's a thing in New York called the High Line. It's like an old train line
Yeah.
And when they revitalized it, let's say, or reopened it or whatever it was, the graffiti up there was like the only proof of what had happened up there in the last, I don't know, 40 years. So it did kind of serve as a marker for that. So there are like, I'm not going to say practical uses, but things about it that kind of pan out in interesting ways.
I was in New York over a decade ago, and I made my girlfriend come with me to the High Line because I had to get a photo of the like ghost cost and revs on there's probably more than one, but there's one spot that I knew of for sure. On our last day in town, we took a cab there, and I mean my girlfriend is very cool, very supportive. She understands my weird obsession, so she allowed us to almost be late for the plane to go and get a photo of the cost and revs on the High Line. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and it seemed sort of out of place. Like I think it was pretty fancy up there. There was like some wooden, not stairs, but like different levels of like people, privileged enough to not have to work that day, and they were just reading in the sun, and then to see like this cost and rev shining through is pretty interesting. So I know what you mean. It's cool. I don't really have that many memories of, or I guess I have memories. I don't have many photos from that trip, but one of them kind of relates to what you're saying, so it's cool.
Totally gives you that a little more perspective on the space.
Yeah, and you know what uh, I love hearing you now, but also in some interviews you had given just talking about autograph, and I don't know if you're sick of people praising autograph or not, but I think it's amazing, and I think it's very cool that you kind of used that as a way to like do your own research. It's kind of, in a way, it's like similar to what I'm doing with this. Like, there's people I want to know more about. There's questions I have, so I want to use this as kind of a pretense to ask these people these questions. And I heard you say like once you got a few bigger names to do it, it was easier for you to present those names to the people you were presenting it to moving forward. And that's kind of exactly what I do with this too. Like when I get kind of a more established person in their field to come on and talk, then I can tell the next person, like, oh, I just talked to so and so last week, and then it opens doors that way. So I mean, I love autograph. I love hearing the logic behind it, and I love that you kind of used it to like further the whole project, and I can relate to that as well.
I remember trying to get someone, and I was like, "What am I going to say to this guy?" And I just remember being like, "Ear snot, VFR, da da da," and I could just see the guy's face, just being like, "Okay, I'm listening."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, "All right, let's go." So there is some power in that. It's funny.
Oh, for sure, and it's funny. Full disclosure, there are people who I would like to approach about doing this podcast, and I will definitely say Peter Sutherland did it. You should too. So
Thanks, man.
it's not to you will be you to me in this process, if you don't mind.
Totally, that's good.
I have a question about like I really I like the way you put it, but I heard you say you'd like to have fun through your work. Like when you're taking photos, you want fun to kind of show through, really, no matter what type of photo it is. But then if I can use that to ask you almost the opposite, can you? I mean, you don't have to throw anyone under the bus, and I mean, unless you want to. But can you tell me a story about having no fun shooting photos? Like maybe some commercial work earlier on when you were less established. Like, is there just a hellscape of a photo shoot in your mind that you had to do to pay bills like earlier on, or were you lucky enough to never have to do that?
Oh, I've had plenty of no funds, but it's part of it, you know. It can't always be fun. I mean, I for autograph, like a no fun for me was like taking a really rad photo and then it not being used. It not, you know, like the kids didn't want this, you know, any information shared about themselves. So you could tell in this one photo there's a pair of kids. You can tell one kid's white, one kid's black, and they're like, nope, it's too much, can't use it. And I was like crushed, you know. But that that's that's like on a creative level. I guess on a I did a shoot for Converse with like a young art director who we became friends, and we were just shooting just millions, just slogging so many photos, and it was like snowing, and we were on a rooftop in like, you know, again, I'm lucky to even be in that position where I can get gigs like that. But that's the first time I felt like I might be getting kind of old for this because I was just so cooked. Uh, After that, I've had shoots where like people uh, they want to control the shoot so much that it makes me feel funny even being there because I'm just like they just see me as a recording device for them or something. I don't know. It's funny, but all those things are valuable too because you learn how to navigate them. You know, you learn how to to zen them out a little bit and not get upset and just roll with it. So I'm I'm glad for those too.
It's kind of a, oh, it's like a Black Widow spider bite, right? You like learn what you didn't like in the process, and that can inform things going forward. So even if it's not good in the moment, it's good later on, right?
Yeah, you just see it and you're like, oh, I got through that, and it can be some of the richest stuff. I mean, even for autograph, there's no action shots in autograph if you look at it, but I actually did go out and shoot people bombing, and we totally went to jail that night. We
Yeah.
totally got arrested, and you know, even that gave me so much perspective on what those guys go through because I was like, I never want to do this again. And then there's people in autograph that have been bagged like 30 times, and I'm like, I don't know how you're functioning still, you know. So it's just they're all it's all valuable.
Right, which is, I mean, a good way to look at it, right? Take like positive from wherever you can. That's good. Like other people, even me or friends of mine would have a more negative response to that. But it's cool that like you have had some bad experiences, but in the end, like I mean, you're grateful to even have any experiences in photography, and then to be able to apply them moving forward. That's great.
Yeah.
I have a question. What is your favorite way to consume photos? Like if when you're looking at other people's photos and trying to, I mean, learn about cameras or photo tricks or just be inspired by people, is it books and zines or is it prints and galleries? Like what would you say is the ideal way for you, or just what's the ideal way for anyone to consume photography in your opinion?
I'd probably say number one is books, and then number two tied would be galleries or like movies. Just seeing if you see a movie and look at it as photography, it's like maybe the most inspiring because you know so much work went into it. But books are exciting because the right layout or the right sequencing can set off the work in a way that is just kind of unexplainable, you know. Um, it's cliche. The first book I saw was William Eggleston, The Guide. It's like the book with a tricycle on the cover.
Yeah, I have it. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, and you see that, and you're just like, that thing is just so cool without even trying. It just has it, you know. So yeah, those are my answers. But in terms of getting inspired, like seeing a really good movie, um, does it when you're looking at like motion images with music, with editing, with color correction, like all those things, like that is what you know keeps it popping for me more than anything.
That's perfect. My next question was gonna be, what do you do like when you don't wanna think about photos and art, or like is it even possible for you to turn that off? And would movies be part of that?
Movies are part of it. I listen to music pretty much if I'm awake, like all the time. Um, I love like zoning out kind of stuff. Like I love kicking a soccer ball, like juggling, uh, biking, and then doing stuff. Oh, you know what? This is funny. This is like maybe the most emotionally recharging thing I've done is I've been volunteer coaching my kids soccer, and that's totally not, you know, something I would have done. Like someone just asked me to do it, and I was like, okay. And then it's been kind of amazing. So that's like not like a non-art thing, and that's something that's like a little bit off brand for me to do because I before that I would just go and watch them play soccer, and now I'm like coaching, and I'm like, oh, this is this. I just feel like I'm like getting more mature or something. Then there's a funny thing where I saw these photos of Larry Clark doing the same thing at some point, where he's like a soccer coach, but you like, there's photos. It might be in Punk Picasso. I don't know, but that's been the most recent, just kind of revelation.
That I mean, it's kind of it's funny for me to think of you coaching, and I don't really know you at all, but it's extra funny to think of Larry Clark coaching. That's
No,
hilarious.
I know you gotta. I want to look it up and send it to you because he's like wearing like dark sunglasses and he's in the like group photo with the kids soccer team, and it's like so funny because if you know that it's him, you just know. It's funny.
That's amazing. Do you can you list a couple movies that you I mean favorite movies or just movies that you really like the imagery of, like you see the movie as photos? What's like, I don't know, three of your go-tos?
So I like all the Mad Max movies. Um, and those are exciting because they start off kind of very raw and then they go more and more tech, with like Furiosa being the last one. Um, those are up there for me. Oliver Stone, The Doors, Val Kilmer's, Jim Morrison. That one just came to me at an age where I was really open to it, and I love that. And there's a bunch of third place ones. Let me see if I can think of something new because I just get stuck on these like old movies. I don't know. I love 12 Monkeys, Donnie Darko. They're old though.
Oh no, yeah, those are great. I love both.
Yeah. I'll have to get back to you. I'll think of the third one in a minute.
Don't stress. I mean, I Donnie Darko is one of the movies that kind of came to me at a pivotal point. So no matter what people say about that movie, like you can't tell me anything about it. Like I think that one's pretty flawless, just because of when I was introduced to that movie as well.
Yeah, it hits on so many levels. The other thing is I don't think the director made another good movie. And that guy was like 26 when he made that. So he was channeling some crazy, you know, youth energy to do that. It's just and I don't know. I can like I see things and I think that movie all the time. So I think we're exactly you can't tell me anything about it. It's too awesome.
And it would be very daunting for the maker of that movie to even attempt to top it. Like, I don't know if they just chose not to make more, if they did and it just didn't work, but either way, like, that would be a stressful thing to have made that and then try to make another better or even equally as good movie. I don't see that being that possible.
Yeah, because he just brought too much heat with the first one, and then where do you go from there?
Yeah, I'm looking at the time. I think I've kept you for as long as I said I would. I just have one question to end on. I ask all the graffiti people that I get on here, and I'm just gonna spin the question to fit you a little better. Can you tell me who is your favorite photographer that you know? And then do you have a favorite photographer that you don't know? Like you've never had any interaction with?
Favorite one I know is probably Jerry Sue.
Yeah.
Um, I love his. I mean, I'm like a fan, you know. So I, you could. He's got photography, he's got his brand, all that. But he's another one where he's just been like staying on the same path of photography for a long time, and I just love his eye and the way he picks out, you know, his stuff. Someone I don't know would be there's a woman, Justine Kurland. I like some of her stuff. She does kind of like fringe people that live like on trains and stuff. I never met her. Um, I mean, I'll take it back and say Eggleston. I don't know him,
Right.
but he's up there.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you'd mention that book. That's I think the way it works for me is I was shooting photos for a bit, but I still have no idea what I'm doing. But back then, I had absolutely no idea. Like, I would see something that I thought was interesting and take a photo of it. And it usually, I mean, it's blasphemy to compare myself to him, but it was sort of along the same, like my best photo might have been similar to his worst photo. And my dad saw what I was taking, and then he happened to be somewhere in the States, I think, and saw an Eggleston show and brought me home the book. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if you know who this is, but it reminds me a lot of what, like, you must look at the same things that he looked at, and I had never heard of him before. And immediately I was like, oh yeah, I again, not comparing myself to him, but I understand where you would draw the similarities from. And now I look at that book a couple times a week, and I probably have for 20 years, and I probably will for the rest of like the time I'm here for sure. That book is very important to me, and very cool that it's important to you as well.
Totally, it's the Donnie Darko for us.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, all that being said, thank you so much. I was extremely nervous for this. I tried as hard as I could. Hopefully that was good and you didn't hate having to do this at all.
Oh no, super fun. I've just been sitting here blowing kisses to my dog, talking to you.
Perfect. Sounds like a very good day.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. It was super fun. Thanks. I'm glad we finally connected.
Yeah,
In the summer, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm just goofing around.
there's people I've been talking to for probably over a year that it hasn't happened, but when it does, it'll be great. So I never mind like the waiting and the anticipation of it all. I was super happy to get this one done, so I could have waited even more if I had to.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Happy Halloween. I'll talk to you soon. Let's just be in touch after this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, see ya.
See you later. Bye, Wesley.
Bye.